climate change and global warming, of which we contributed very less, we are facing salinity, drought, waterlogging, so many issues.
We have always protection challenges and other resources are multiplied.
Climate change happens due to the pollution of industrialized countries.
That is adversely affecting their lives.
Houses damaged 2,589.
People going outside cross-border.
46.7 million people were actually displaced here.
The final drop makes them move across the border.
People migrate during the lean months.
Per day in Dhaka, 2,000 people from Bangladeshi coastal area entering the city.
And again, someone has to take the responsibility to rebuild those houses.
And will provide good practices and innovative ideas on how to improve the protection of people forced to flee abroad following a disaster.
As a steering group member of Nansen Initiative, the message is it's time that we take the critical issue of displacement due to climate change very seriously. This is a reality. If we fail to take on this issue within the broader context of climate debate and the migration debate and in the disaster management debate, possibly we'll fail to make a difference in the life of people who are affected by climate change. And let's get together, do something which will bring a difference in the people's life.
Climate change has become an issue. Environment and mobility or migration were always interlinked. There was a direct nexus between environment and migration. Now, with the higher intensity of the disasters, whether related or climate related disasters, or the higher frequency, that is what is making us concerned about the whole issue. All the participants were taken to a village where almost 10,000 people are living on the embankments. Those are the villages which were affected by Cyclone Aila in 2009. And 6 years down the line, people are still living in these embankments which were built following the Aila, where he has to live in a tilted house which is built with some wooden pillars inside the water. And the pathway is still inhabited in water. It is not the water that is remaining from Cyclone Aila for 6 years, but it is because of the increase of the water level in the sea that area is becoming now inhabitable for those communities. But they are living there because there is not much choice or option. There is a huge concrete cement structure in the middle of the water nowhere, that we can see from the settlement, which was apparently the mosque of the village.
What we saw were the huge challenges Bangladesh is facing. Just traveling on the river, it was so evident that without building embankments, polders, dikes, it would be impossible to live here. But it also became very evident that now with impacts of climate change, rising sea levels, regular flooding, some of this land is really lost. And when we then arrived at the place where people who had been displaced because their houses had been destroyed are now living in precarious conditions on an embankment since several years, I think everyone realized what the impacts of disasters and climate change on people are, that displaced people have to struggle to rebuild their lives. Being displaced really means you lose your home, you lose very often your livelihoods, you lose what was dear to you, and you're exposed to multitude of risks, to poverty, and without support, without help, these people have huge difficulties to restore their lives and get back to a normal situation.
We had this opportunity of going to a place which has been impacted by Cyclone Ayla in 2009. Of course, we did face our share of impact in 2009 when this disaster happened here. We had downpour in Bhutan, we had landslide. So that's why it's, transboundary in nature.
Afghanistan is a landlocked country with dry climate, with durable temperature, lot of differences between winter and the summer. The country is affected mainly by the floods, alternative droughts, avalanches, harsh winters, earthquakes, and so. Regional cooperation is very important, and this consultation enrich our experiences and exchanging of the experiences, and definitely such consultation can enable us to make good policies for disaster management in the future.
The area in Assam where we are working, this is Lakhimpur district, it is affected by floods annually, which of course affects lives and livelihoods of the local people. At the same time, there is an outmigration of young men to other parts of Assam as well as to other parts of India to find jobs in the informal and unorganized sector.
It is time to recognize that climate change is real. It is time to recognize that displacement are going to happen. These people are going to be displaced. It is time that recognize that economy would be impacted, food security would be impacted, and when food security is impacted, livelihood is impacted, people will move out. It is difficult to distinguish between economic migrants and climate change migrants, but we need to develop deep understanding and address it. I think that Khulna, which is one of the 5 regional consultation locations, these results of these 5 taken together would try to help us to develop some national regime as well as global regime, how to handle this emerging issue.
I've seen estimates from 10 to 100 million people will be on the move in this region on the coming decades. So it is clear that this is an issue that South Asia has to address. With regard to the external cross-border displacement, there is a lot of other challenges like admission to the territory, legal status, access to services, access to justice, and documentation, etc. And there I encourage the participating state to build on the processes, both national processes, regional processes, mainly in the SARC, but also to influence the global processes to make sure that human mobility is addressed. If we don't have a rights-based approach, it will be easy that the victims or the people who are moving are losing out, and therefore we will find ourselves in humanitarian crisis more and more often.
We have very specific recommendations on how to protect those who have been displaced, but also on planned relocation, on migration as adaptation. What's the relevance of all of that? The Nansen Initiative, it's very much a process of building consensus bottom-up from affected countries and regions to the global level.
The goal of this initiative was first to identify the needs and actually measures taken already. Secondly, to have an exchange of best practices. And thirdly, to develop a protection agenda. Now we will continue the discussion in Geneva, so we will not go abroad anymore, in various groups, which actually will lead to a conclusion of the protection agenda. This is the heart, the centerpiece of the Nansen Initiative.